Good afternoon. Yesterday we had a great celebration at the White House for the passage and the president signing earlier the Inflation Reduction Act that lowers cost for families. It's so exciting. It's historic. There has never been anything like it to pass this Congress or any country in the world to preserve our planet for the children. In that respect, it is a health issue: clean air, clean water, environmental justice for the children. It saves money for families by reducing. Historically, we have been working for decades to enable the Secretary to be able to negotiate for lower prescription drug prices. And that is now the law of the land. In addition to which, there will be a $2,000 cap for seniors so that they don't have to pay more than that. This is remarkable. Again, historic. It's really a victory over the special interest. It's interesting that Pharma said when we passed the bill to lower costs for prescription drugs, the Democrats will pay for this. It also reduces costs by lowering energy costs for families. Again, saving the planet, lowering the cost of prescription drugs and health care, lowering energy costs. 100% of the Democrats in the House, 100% of the Democrats in the Senate, and that's historic too, in both houses. Not one Republican vote to lower prescription drug prices, to have clean air, clean water for our children, to lower energy costs for our families. So it's pretty exciting to us. As I said yesterday at the White House, when this bill passed, we jumped for joy because it had been long in coming and historic in its scope. Then we can go more into some of those provisions if you wish, but only to say that on top of all of it, it lowers the deficit, it contributes to lowering inflation, and does so by making the wealthiest and some corporations who have avoided taxes to pay their fair share. So yesterday, as we were gathering to celebrate this victory for the people over politics, the Republicans their extreme MAGA Republicans gathered to unveil their latest bill to criminalize women's health in all 50 states. The bill calls for a penalty of 5 years in federal prison for doctors performing abortions. This is a democracy issue, it's a freedom issue, but it's also a kitchen table issue for America's working families. It comes right to the heart of decision making in the family. Again, this is as they criminalize women's freedom to make their own choices. We have passed legislation to support freedom for women. When we passed the legislation to enshrine Roe v. Wade into law, not one Republican voted for that. Okay, well, let's see what they do about contraception. 9 Republicans voted to give women the right to contraception. 9. That means over 200 of them do not support a woman's right to contraception. And again, in terms of women being able to travel to exercise their health freedom, 3 Republicans said that Americans should be able to cross state lines for health reasons. 3 Republicans. So that's what we're dealing with here. But again, the contrast is great when we talk about women's health. I've said criminalize abortion, don't allow women to have health care or travel, contraception or travel for their health care. At the same time, we have a different agenda. And again, Social Security. Over the break, we had a number of days of action. One of them was to observe the 87th birthday of Social Security. It was fabulous. It was a drumbeat across America. We had these across the country. 87th birthday. It was an organizing tool as well because people really support Social Security and are concerned about what the Republicans, including the chair of their Senate campaign committee, has said about reviewing whether this Social Security should exist in 5 years. Again, while we're protecting health care and financial security for seniors, the Republicans are undermining that. They never did support Social Security or Medicare, Medicaid. And in fact, when we won the House in 2006, it was largely thank you to President Bush wanting to privatize Social Security. And here they go again. Again, attacking our democracy, making it harder for people to vote. In that regard, one of the biggest suppressors of the vote is big, dark, special interest money in politics. This election gives us an opportunity, if we can elect 2 more senators, to pass legislation that diminishes the role of big, dark money by insisting on disclosure, which we've been trying to do since the hateful, anti-democratic Citizens United decision came down from an irresponsible court, to, again, trying to pass disclosure, which couldn't get 1 Republican vote in the Senate to do that. But again, part of this election has to be to rescue our democracy from big, dark, special interest money. And that will restore people's confidence that their vote and their voice is as important as anyone's. Our legislation does just that. It's passed the House a number of times. It actually had the more than 50 votes in the Senate, but it did not have enough to remove the famous filibuster screen that is there. So when we celebrated the Inflation Reduction Act yesterday at the White House, each of us, whether it was Chuck Schumer or the president, or in my remarks, we all talked about how this fits under the president's agenda of fairness, of equity, of inclusiveness in our society, in our economy, in our prosperity. And it includes, of course, starting with the American Rescue Package, which rescued that, just indeed, America, our economy, our people from where they had been in the previous administration. The infrastructure law, bipartisan bill, putting millions to work, building America and delivering clean water and broadband, with a strong commitment to justice and fairness and equity in the legislation, involving many more people in our prosperity. The PACT Act, something we've all worked on for such a while. I salute Mark Chicano, the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee, Raul Ruiz, who worked with him on this, for this legislation. It's remarkable. Nearly $250 billion will be spent to protect the health of our workers, and I'd love to go into it, our veterans, go into it more if you ask. And then the bipartisan Safer Communities Gun Violence Prevention, which was bipartisan. It's a good first step. We have more to do. But nonetheless, all of these are very, very important. And of course, the CHIPS and Science Act, which again, inclusion, diversity, reaching out, bringing more people in through the science part of it, which is about education and research and fairness, as well as the CHIPS part, which is all of it a national security issue for us. So rescue, PACT, CHIPS and science, infrastructure law, and again, safety in our communities, culminating now in the the Inflation Reduction Act. So again, Democrats are always there for the people. We put people over politics, and it's a pretty dramatic time as you see the Republicans putting forth a ban. A majority of the Republicans in the House are co-sponsors of legislation for a nationwide abortion ban. It's important to note that, and we want to make sure the public is aware of it, in contrast to our respect for the freedom of women to make their own choices. Any questions?
Madam Speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Speaker, yes. The nation's on a precipice of a rail strike right now as we speak. There's a potential rail strike. Have you spoken to the White House about where things stand in negotiations? Are you involved? Help us understand where things are, and could you support a potential resolution from Congress like the one that some senators, Republican senators, are proposing?
Well, you have 3 questions, all on the same subject. Yes, I have been engaged in conversation with the White House and with the the unions involved in this. We're all hoping that negotiations will continue so there is no rail strike, and they're at the table with the Secretary of Labor. Secretary Walsh has been very much hoping that we can get a resolution of this. The main area of disagreement is that there's no sick leave for the workers, and that's a problem. Secondly, what was the second part? I've been in touch, yes, with them.
Yeah, where do things stand, and does Congress need to act? Could you support action from Congress?
Well, action from Congress, what I would rather see negotiations prevail, so that there is no need for any actions from Congress.
On abortion, Senator Graham introduced the 15-week
Yeah.
national ban.
Yeah.
What does it tell you that the reaction from at least most of the Republican senators has been muted, or just to say that this should be a state's issue?
Well, it should. If you've seen those side-by-sides, the split screens on TV this morning, you see in August Senator Graham saying that this should be a state issue. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody's saying this should be a state issue. And then probably at the insistence of the MAGA grassroots coming out and saying there should be a federal ban. You have to ask the Republicans as to why they poured cold water on it, but they know they are digging a hole and they just keep digging it. I was telling my members this morning about when I was in school, like high school, a long time ago, that there was a short story called The Revolt of Mother. And Mother revolted about certain things that were expected of her. Again, this is a revolt of Mother and others as well. Women are not happy about this, and it is they're making their views known, and it's so unfortunate. And as I say, as a mother of 5 in 6 years and 1 week, I keep saying I respect everybody's view about how they decide to do what they do, and we should continue to respect their freedom to do so. But I think what you're seeing there is a conflict within the Republican Party. There are those in the party that think life begins at the candlelight dinner the night before. And these people are in defiance of that, right? They're in defiance of that because they're saying whatever they're saying about it. So that's what you're seeing there. But we are united in our support for women's right to choose.
Madam Speaker, the stop trade ban legislation, it's uniquely had broad bipartisan support, but we've been talking about this since February. Why has it taken 8 months? And given the fact that the media, including most recently the New York Times, launched an investigation citing 97 lawmakers in potential violation, with many of them failing to report under the Stock Act, should there be greater penalties in the legislation that you do put forward for people to be found in violation?
Yeah, I'm not big on the New York Times and their investigations, but if that's what your premise is. Here's the thing. Members have been working on this. Just because somebody introduces a bill doesn't mean it becomes the law of the land. There's been discussion about it, and just recently this morning, actually, the committee, we've been going back and forth, and they were refining things and talking to members about what they think will work, and we believe we have a product that we can bring to the floor this month. Exciting.
Congressional staff?
Well, you know what? When the bill comes out, you'll see what it is, and those are some of the discussions that go back and forth. But I'm pleased with it. It's very strong, but again, just because, what do they say, they have 60, that's not even a quarter of what we need, a third of what we need to pass a bill, regardless of how bipartisan it is. The fact is, the ethics, the Committee of Jurisdiction is the House Administration Committee. They have to make sure they're in sync with the Ethics Committee and this or that, and that's called legislating. No. Now, this is Women's Day. Yes, go ahead.
I want to ask you about a very well-known woman, the Queen. I know you signed her condolence book yesterday.
Yeah.
And as we know, at this point, in terms of her funeral next week, it appears that the President and First Lady are going to be the only ones representing the United States. Do you expect that to change at all? Any last-minute changes as far as
No.
Delegation, and do you have any regrets if members aren't able to go?
Well, of course, there's a large number of members who would like to go, but the fact is that there are only like 2,000 people who fit into the Westminster Abbey, whatever the chapel is that it will be in. And yesterday we had a lovely bereavement resolution put forth by Congressman Ron Kind of Wisconsin. Ron has been the chair of the UK Interparliamentary Group, but also he's co-chair of another subgroup, that UK-US. Ron Kind's ancestor came over on the Mayflower. Somewhere along the way, and for whatever reasons, I don't know, he fell off the ship. But they rescued him, and now we have Ron Kind in the Congress of the United States. So he offered the bereavement resolution, and it was beautiful. And we also had a moment of silence for Her Majesty, and I just wrote a note to the Speaker because we interact together. I wrote him a note to say that in my comments regarding the Queen, I said she's a monarch for the UK, but a matriarch for democracy and, of course, for women around the world. So we all extend our condolences, but I think it's understandable. Now, there will be, not my announcement, my understanding is the embassy will be making an announcement that we will have a big service in Washington, D.C., perhaps sometime next week, but it's their announcement to make.
Madam Speaker,
Last question. Yes, sir.
Madam Speaker, you predicted that House Democrats are going to defy the odds and actually pick up seats in this year's midterm election, and thus retaining the chamber. At the same time, we often hear calls for generational change within the Democratic Party and within American politics generally. Insider reported just this week that this Congress is statistically the oldest one ever. If Democrats do retain the House, do you plan to seek another term as Speaker? Why or why not?
Not after that glorious introduction you gave. Look, right now, my focus is on holding the House. How many times have I told you over the past year and a half plus that the Democrats would hold the House, despite some of the so-called conventional, so-called wisdom in Washington, D.C., saying that in the off year, the president's party always loses the Congress or seats. The fact is, that isn't conventional, and it isn't wisdom, because convention has changed. We communicate in a different way. We have a different reality here now in terms of our own democracy being on the ballot, our planet being on the ballot, the future of our country being on the ballot, and also we always believed we would win, so we always prepared for it. Mobilization to own the ground. Our distinguished chairman, Sean Patrick Maloney, began that even before January 6th. As soon as he was chosen by our colleagues to be the chair, even before January 6th, you can just imagine the momentum it picked up. Secondly, mobilization depends on messaging, and the legislation that we are passing has been very, very, shall we say, encouraging to our grassroots. And then the third is, of course, the resources. It begins with an M, but I don't like to bring it up. The resources needed to win. So we have been ready. So when the Supreme Court decision came down, it wasn't a case of, oh, if only we had known. No, we were ready because we believed and because we saw the urgency of it. Now, in addition to that, forgetting what we believe and what we were prepared for, the most important part of it is our candidates believed. They believed in the future, they believed in themselves, they believed that they could win in those districts. So we were in place with a great array of candidates, just a few more chosen since that decision. But the decision has really made a remarkable difference. But even so, our kitchen table issues are where people make their decisions as well, whether the cost of prescription drugs, the rest of it. But again, a woman's right to choose is a kitchen table issue in terms of family decision making. And so we're pretty excited about the prospects. We're This morning we were able to welcome to our caucus 2 newly sworn-in members. It's Congressman Ryan of New York, Congressman Meltola of Alaska, 2 places nobody expected us to win, including the Republicans. So we're very proud of the success that we're having, and we fully intend to hold the House. And even though there are some among you who belittle my political instincts and the rest, I got us here twice to the majority, and I don't intend to arguing it up. Yes, sir, one last. Yeah.
Would you like to answer Brian's question about your own future?
No, I said first we're going to win, and that's really the issue. Okay?
And then?
Did you not? Are we speaking a different language? First we win, then we decide. And the fact is that I'm so excited about our new members coming in. They're beautifully diverse. They're courageous. Courage is the main thing. Everybody can have their convictions and their commitments to ideas, and that's lovely, and that's their why they run. But how they run with courage is really what is so exciting. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Who's gonna win the softball game?
Thank you.
Are you going? Yeah.
Giants are missing the
Literal
playoffs.
softball.